Grateful for our body that is still in good enough condition. It might have a little pain or a little difficulty here, but right now at least we can be here in the park. Breathing in, I'm aware of my body still in healthy condition. Breathing out, I smile to my body. So grateful to this body. In this body. Out, feeling grateful. Breathing in, I'm aware of my Dharma body, my awareness, my ability to practice. Just simply breathing in and out with consciousness. Having learned how to just cherish the present moment, not be overwhelmed by our difficulties and our past. Cherishing the present moment, knowing that we can take care of the future just by taking care of this moment. That's my Dharma body. This full deliberate intention. Dharma body, my practice body. How grateful. Breathing in, I become aware of my Sangha body. All my friends around me practicing. How nice to have a community, to have a spiritual family, to support each other, to learn from each other, even in difficult moments. My community there also to shine light on me when I get stuck. How grateful to be part of a Sangha body. I smile to my Sangha body. Can open our eyes. Thank you for your practice. This afternoon, our panel is themed roots and branches. So meaning the tree is healthy when it's both growing roots and is producing new leaves. I think that's something you can recognize. Whenever the tree can produce leaf every season, it's thriving. And when it's producing leaves, you know that the roots are also going deeper. And so those two things are very related. And today we have a chance to go deeper and hear from our friends, 4 members up here from our Sangha, to hear more about their practice, how they have been how they're thriving, as well as how they're going deeper through their difficulties and challenges. And I just shared at lunchtime, there are many ways that we can offer our practice. And I think our teacher is really open it up to allow, not allow, but like to really recognize also in the lay community that we can go as deep and as powerful in the practice. I just share you, I grew up in a very traditional temple, and usually the monastics are the ones doing the teachings only. And they, the lay friends, their only function is to support us, and we help carry you through our merit. I remember in Deer Park, there was one time I was working in the garden, and this woman came up to me, and she took money in her pocket, and she put it in my pocket. You know, I had a like a pullover, like she put it in there, and she said in Vietnamese, she said, "Chú tu đi nha, chú tu nha." He said, "You practice for me, okay? You make sure you practice well for me, okay?" Meaning that tells you a little bit the background of like lay friends. They give you money, and then you practice, and then they get your how do you call it? The reward, huh? The merit, yeah. And I was going to ask her, "Do you have your merit card? You know, I can charge it. You know." That's the future of Buddhism. There, you have merit cards, right? But it just shows you that it's still embedded in our culture that lay friends, you know, you shouldn't be sharing the Dharma. It should be monks and nuns only. But our teacher is very how do you call it? He doesn't like just the status quo. And I think in Vietnamese and in other tradition too, there are many established lay teachers. So that's not to like, you know, be proud and stuff, but to share that the lay friends can go very deeply. So this is the panel has that intention that rather than just offering Dāna in terms of money, food, and support and so on, that we also offer the deepest part of our transformation, our ability to touch lightness, happiness, joy, and freedom in our practice. And we've known these four friends from Deer Park. They're like OGs of Deer Park. They practically raised their family and have grown with us throughout the years. And so we're very lucky that they're courageous enough to be here. I sent an email out to many OG practitioners. A lot of them refused to come up here. And a lot of them were Vietnamese, by the way. They were very uncomfortable to come up here and speak to the Vietnamese people. And I write email back, "Come on, you have to do it. You're the student of Thai. You have to represent." But because we're in, you know, Mile Square Park, so it's like the heart of Vietnamese town, so they're very nervous. So I told them, okay, next year. So this is why we try our best to have a diverse panel, but it was a challenge. Just to let you know, a disclaimer. I tried very hard to get more people of color, of course, and again, I got no cooperation. But I say that because I know out there some of you will do this again, and this is an important dialogue to have between you know, cross generation, between parents, grandparents, parents, and then their grandchildren. So this is what I love about Thai's teaching. It's quite it can go across the generation, as you can see, also as well as across culture, the different Asian and the whole spectrum of many cultures, and I think you know that from our practice. So without further ado, I think we will. I guess they can introduce themselves. Should we do that, or do you want Sister D and I are kind of like a host, talk show host, and we've we're gonna try to pick their brains so that they can share the real stuff and not the stuff that seems wise, but the real sticky stuff. So if we feel like it's not going deep, we're gonna pick you, okay? So Sister D, could you start the picking first? So this is like a tree with a lot of fruits. So we're gonna pick not just the super, the low hanging fruits.
Dear beloved Thai, dear brothers and sisters, dear beloved community, it's really a happy day. There are uncles and aunties who have practiced with Thai since their 40s, 50s, 60s, and now they are in their 80s and 90s, so that they cannot drive to Deer Park anymore. But today, I've seen many of them coming out just to be able to see us. And I see many of you are Sangha members over the years. And so I see Thai smiling very brightly in each one of us. And I want to introduce to you Jane Yoon from afar. She came to Deer Park since 2002. She was in her early 20s. She was dating this young man. They used to come together, and they've been married since. And actually, the Sangha married them. We were there for their wedding, and now they have 2 teenage boys who are very athletic, and they love the Dharma as well. The 2 young sons that they have. So definitely, the trees have borne fruits, and the fruits are sweet. So we know that you are a professional in the medical field. Your husband is also quite busy leading a construction company. You raised 2 young boys with many activities. And then there's also an elderly mother who's been sick, I think for at least 15 years. We thought her mother would pass away more than 10 years ago, and yet she's still alive, and she lives with the 2 of them. So you have quite a few responsibilities. Would you share with us how you have been able to use the practice, to navigate through all of these very challenging times in your family, in your marriage, in your relationships with your growing sons and mother, and still remain very much steady on the path, and still find joy and meaning in your roles as a professional, a partner, a mother, a daughter. So we are very happy that you are here, and you represent that generation, that young and that now have grown into a middle-aged group. Thank you for being here with us. I already asked.
Dear beloved Thai, dear brothers and sisters, our lovely collective community, the Sangha, I'm very honored to be part of this panel and participating in today's event. As Brother Phap Yung had introduced, it's pretty nerve-wracking to be up here. As you probably recognize, I'm one of the only Vietnamese-speaking young woman up here. As I was asked or recruited to be part of this panel, some thoughts have come up in my mind, and I just wanted to share. I'm not really good at speaking publicly in front of a lot of people. So I came up with some thoughts, and somehow it just flourished into a very casual way of writing a poem. I'm totally not a poet at all. But some thoughts have come up, and I like to share some of that. These are the time of challenges. These are the time of love. These are the time of sacrifice, compromise. These are the time to rise up. I find myself not perfect. I find my own suffering. I find myself surrendering. I find my own loneliness. I hear my own echoing voice. I listen to others' noises, and they become the bees' buzzing sound. Pause. Stop. Focus. Breathe. Recognize my breathing becomes my friend, always by my side, not yet to leave. This journey is mine. Nothing else matters. And my journey to walk, embrace. I find quiet. I find peace. Breathe. Let the journey continues. Let the breath be still. Let the understanding dwells. Let love begins. May I pass this microphone to my next best friend? No.
Thank you for the poem, Jane. But I want to ask you, in the Asian culture, a hue is very important. And now you're taking care of your mom, and it was not easy to follow those, with not so much support. A lot of Vietnamese family, they have to bring their elders to nursing home or to elder place. And it just, I feel very, proud that you were able to do that with your mom for so long. And when I took care of my dad, it was very difficult because we're the same family, and it's even harder. He's like the best behavior in front of the nurses and doctors, but when I go home, oh my God, it's like during his medicine he won't go to the appointment because he wants to punish me, And so I want to know. I know that probably happened to you, and I want to know how you practice with it, and in those really tight moments. That's a real question, and I know I know you had difficulty with it, but that's also we need to acknowledge that in our community, because there are a lot of women, a lot of men too, a lot of Asian children feel that guilt. They come to the monastery and they share with me a lot. They feel guilty. They have to bring their parents in the elder home but they can't do it at home anymore because it's hard. It's not effective. So how have you managed to do that?
Thầy, you asked me the toughest question, and I'm not prepared. So I'm in my mid-40s. As many people probably call it, the sandwich generation. I was born in Vietnam, so I am fluent in Vietnamese. I can read and write and speak, of course, but I think for benefit of the community today, it's probably better in English. So I grew mostly up here for most of my life. My mother right now, she will be 79 years old in June next month. So in Vietnamese calendar, she's technically going to be 80 years old because we believe that the moment we are born, we're already 1 year of age. And in Vietnamese culture, we celebrate the Lunar New Year as the new birth year not the specific birthday that you were born in. So my mom has had a lot of medical issues. In 2004, 19 years ago, she suffered a stroke, but prior to that, she's had a multitude of medical illness that just kind of happened to her. For a Vietnamese woman who has survived a war, survived many things, being an immigrant, coming to this country with a very tough background. We came with nothing really in our hands. So, and raising me, so she's had many medical issues, and she's given up every single possible thing but hang on to the hope of raising me as her one and only child. So I do recognize the challenges, the difficulties, and all the suffering she has been through. So between me and her, we are like together, always like this. And in Asian culture, you know, the parents really give up everything for their kids. And we really draw and focus on education. So my mom has done a lot of jobs, working in the labor, assembly, and everything she could possibly do to help me go to school, go to college, buying my new car, etc., and etc. So it was a miracle that she actually, survived her stroke in 2004. And since then, here and there, she actually had managed to travel a lot. Amazing. This woman went with certain Sangha traveling. She'd gone through Europe, went to Burma. She's been to places I haven't been to. It's pretty good. And my mom is very adventurous. So I think some of that genes passed down to me, and her attitude of always be grateful to the Buddha and the Sangha for supporting and pulling her through all these challenges that she's had endured in her life. So in recent years, during COVID time, it was particularly difficult when my mom was very ill in the year 2020. And she pulled through all those times. There was one time she was bedridden. She could not get out of bed. There was no strength. She was actually in hospice. And as you know, people who are in the status of hospice would have a very short time to live. But with a little help every single day, we just kind of go through it with a day-to-day basis. Try everything every day to the best that we could, and really try to live in the present moment. There were a lot of difficult times. I had to lift my mom up from the ground, from inside the shower, from getting up from the toilet. And she's a tiny little lady. She's only 95 pounds. But lifting dead weight is very challenging. And I'm not exactly that strong. So learning to maneuver. So within the last 3 years, I've had the role of Not being just a mom, not just being a daughter, but, children learning from home, remote, being a teacher, being a cook, being everything you could possibly think of. I was her nurse, her doctor, therapist, physical therapist, speech therapist, everything from A to Z. There were many months that I slept in the room next to her room, and for a period of more than a year, I constantly would wake up. I have chronic insomnia. Any noise, any stirring noise would wake me up. I could not sleep straight. I would always, out of exhaustion, I would fall asleep, no problem falling asleep at 9 or 10 p.m., but I would always wake up at 2. Worrying that she'll fall out of bed, worrying if she needs something. And even until today, my mind just does it. And so I'm working on that. So things like little noises, even if my mom stirs, I would just frantically run to her bed. There was times I had a bell that she could ring if she needed something. So I was a bedside nurse for a very long time. So changing diapers, showering, wiping, and slowly getting her to get up and use a walker and whatnot, things like that. So I went through all of that. And there were times it was a lot easier for me to just wish I could just go away, to just run away, to just not seeing any of it, to just have my own time for my own healing and whatnot. So just realizing that that was very normal and it's very healthy to feel that way. We have this idealistic world that we're expecting of ourselves that, we need to be strong, we need to be perfect, we have to carry it all, we have to do it all. And that's really expected of Asian women.
Thank you, Jane. If Jane was sitting in the audience, what would you tell her briefly? She's sitting there in the audience.
To love yourself. That was the biggest lesson I learned. That you have to take care of yourself first and know that nowadays we have a wealth of information and a lot of resources out there, especially here in America. You're not alone. There are times you will feel alone, and there are times you feel really weak, and just accept that that's very normal, and reach out, and just talk. And when people, even when it may sound like they pity you or just feel sorry for you, don't feel that way. Everybody loves, and the love may be different, and it may not be the way you prepare yourself to be, but it's just a journey. So first, take care of yourself, take some breaks, allow yourself to have a break. And with that, I have to say that the app from Plum Village, I'm advertising, as you can see. But the app really, really helped me every day. I would take just 15 minutes. Sometimes I felt like I couldn't breathe. My lungs were heavy. My head was not thinking anymore. I didn't want to hear any more sound. But the Plum Village app, 15-minute meditation, even 10 minutes. And they even have some for children as well. Really help just to bring myself to a point of collecting myself and loving myself, loving me for being there, for everyone and for myself. Because when I have the strength to do it, then I could take care of my people well. When I don't have the strength, then it doesn't help anybody. Like, I would be so drained, I would be angry, cranky, exhausted. So,
Thank you,
go
Jean.
sign up on that Plum Village app.
Thank you, Jean, for showing your vulnerability. And when we say you're a good practitioner, doesn't mean you're a perfect practitioner. It's just you're authentic. It means if you're suffering, you know you're suffering, and you're doing your best to take care of it. Sometimes we have the misconception that a practitioner always has to be happy and have everything under control. So thank you, Jane, for revealing that to us, and then we're very proud of you. Seeing your mom was up here one time at your park, and she was sitting there waiting for someone to bring her food. It was so sweet. She couldn't go up the stair. But she had the biggest smile on her face. So I just wanted to just acknowledge that, it was tough, and thank you for taking care of your mom and your children as well. Yeah. Thank you for being a mom, a real mom.
Thank you.
Maybe we listen to One Sound of the Bell. Next, I would like to introduce Peter Kun, here right to my right. And he's been coming to Deer Park for at least over a decade, huh? 15. Yeah. 15. And he comes up and he has his long hair, and he's part of our landscape. And we know him through his support of the sharing the practice to prisoners. But maybe he'll share, but he also grew into the practice through the door of suffering that actually brought him to Thai, and how that has transformed and given him a lot of inspiration to continue to do his work in Sangha building. So please share, Peter, and like you experienced with Jane, if you're going around like that, we will go right there. It takes more time, but we want the real stuff.
Dear Thai, dear Sukho, respected elders and friends of the Sangha, my family, very honored to be here today, and I've received such gifts from our tradition that it's overwhelming. And I will share, as Phap Pim said, that I came to the Sangha after our 17-year-old son died, trying to find a way through the grief, a way to process the grief. And what I've received is a transmission that, rather than moving through the grief, has allowed me to keep it alive in a beautiful way that informs every moment of how I live. It's the teaching, like Phap Pim said again, about finding the way to be with suffering as a friend and teacher, as an ally, rather than as a victimizer. And I am honored to be here with the Vietnamese community because I don't have opportunity to engage with the Mahasangha in this way, as well as my Western American friends. And I'm a recovering drug addict, and I spent many years wanting to escape my feelings, wanting to be out of my body. And the transmission that Thai shares is how to come home to the body, how to listen to the bell and come home to the body as a refuge rather than something to tolerate, and that means finding a way to be with tough feelings. And a big part of this is learning to recognize joy, to learning to see conditions of gratitude, conditions of happiness that are available all the time. Just being alive. For me, being free of addiction in this moment of active addiction is a condition for great joy. And we can touch freedom in any moment when we can embody it, when we can touch that. It's available. But through finding a way to be comfortable in my own skin, learning how to breathe mindfully and calm the body and allow my mind to calm without fearing my mind, without needing to fear my feelings, what I want to share is that the practice has not freed me of challenging feelings and sufferings, of tensions, of fears, of shame and guilt and remorse and heartache by any means. But I'm able to be more sensitive to it and care for it sooner, rather than waiting for it to manifest so strong that it's a tidal wave that sweeps me away. And I thought meditation practice would be like a drug, and that by being a good meditation practitioner, that I could bypass all of the dukkha, all of the suffering. And I've become more sensitive, and I think that that's a precious gift. What I want to share about a little is about my dad, who, my family is, my paternal family were Jews in Eastern Europe where there was a lot of persecution, and my paternal grandfather and grandmother escaped and came here and changed the name, the spelling of the name, to fit in. And they went from being people who did not have much rights where they lived to being accepted as white people and privilege, so that my dad could go to medical school, so that he could provide for us. And I was raised very beautifully to see all people as equal. These are the words my father taught us, and my mother, that everyone is equal. But at the same time, the imprint of hatred and discrimination was so deep that as an American Jew and as a first-generation American Jew, he would not buy a German product because of the Holocaust. Even if it was the best camera or the car, he wouldn't buy it because of the Holocaust. So the message that I got was, okay, we're all equal, but the seeds of racism and discrimination were still alive and transmitted. So having been in the practice this long, I'm very grateful that I learned how to look more deeply into sensations and manifestations of my nervous system to see how intolerance, discrimination, and fear are alive in my body, whether I think it's a good idea or I like it or not, because I don't like it. I practice no discrimination. The song is so beautiful and so perfect for today, yet the body discriminates, the body fears. And I want to learn how to be vigilant to that because, and this may sound abstract, but I don't mean it that way, I am a product of a racist society. I am a product of a society where we have Asian hate. We have come from roots of slavery. We come from roots of intolerance. We are pro-war. And as a devout pacifist who's walking in the footsteps of Thich Nhat Hanh, our most noble and respected teacher, I don't want to talk peace and not care for the seeds and roots of war in myself. And that's kind of my practice. I am far from a perfect practitioner, but this practice is my life. Sangha building is really my life. So my wife is here and she'll tell you, I get impatient, I get angry. You know what, formal lunch, is a great time for me. I used to hate it, I'm sorry to say, because it's a lot of waiting around. And I recognize that impatience and that kind of intolerance and wanting people to hurry up, or when can we start, or my food's getting cold, are the roots of war in me in a way that are inviting me to recognize them, not feed them. The first thing is not, I don't want to feed this stuff. And the second thing is how to care for them. And by caring for them, I don't mean make them go away. I mean, hold it. Let go of my story and hold the part of my body that's tight, the part of my nervous system, and be a friend to it. So we have generous Sangha friends who cooked food and cared for us, who sang for us, who beautiful Dharma talks for us, and I want to learn how to be a friend for my own nervous system and my feelings and my own unwholesome habit energies. And I hope to be one day more like Thai, who came up through the war, and Thai and Sister Chân Không built schools and villages and built up communities and saw them wiped out and rebuilt them again, and saw Americans come in again and wipe them out again and again. And here he came to the United States with such love and equanimity that he did retreats for Vietnam veterans so that they could find healing from the trauma. Sister Dāna has beautiful artwork over there that says reverence is the language of my love. And I hope that my life really is, as much as possible, as much of the time, an embodiment of my love. And I will end with this. It's my unloving thoughts, words, and actions that I want to pay attention to, because they're showing me where I can become more loving and how I can be more skillful. So I have confidence in the Dharma. I have confidence in the Sangha. I don't have to fear that anymore. I can see them as Papai used to say, they're sacred messengers showing me the way forward. And I owe all of this to our teacher, my elders, and really most truly because of Deer Park and the home I found there. And the prison work we'll talk about another time.
Thank you, Uncle Pete, for taking such good care of yourself and of your suffering, so that you can be there for so many others. Uncle Pete has worked a lot with people in prison, in the pen pal programs, in writing letters, sharing the Dharma with people in prison at the VA hospital. It's because you have been taking care of yourself. You've been actively healing your pain, your addiction, and now you can be there to help others to do the same. And your presence in the practice, especially in our Sangha, is very comforting and very nurturing. We cherish you. Thank you. Dear beloved, dear beloved community, now I'd like to introduce to you Jake Kim. She's also been a sister on the path with us for over 23, 24 years. She's come to Deer Park frequently. She received the 14 mindfulness training since 2013 with a very beautiful name, Chân Không, a true beautiful garden. And I am sure you have also been working very hard in your garden to make it, to beautify it and heal it And so would you share with us about, how it is to be a person of color, to be a minority in many different ways, and also to heal the trauma in your own life and through the transmission of your parents, especially your mother. I'm sure many of us experience that here, and your open, honest practice sharing with that healing will benefit many of us. Thank you so much for your love and your courage.
Thank you. Dear Thai, dear Sangha, dear beautiful park, dear universe. It's so nice to be outside together in real time, in person. I'm real. Real. I want to say that because sometimes I wake up and in the morning and you look at your phone and your notifications every week says, your screen time has gone down by 15%. You were only on your screen 7 hours a day. Whenever I read that, I'm kind of in denial. I'm like, oh no, I'm 15% down. I say that too because I so cherish, and I feel like Deer Park, and I spell it D-E-A-R Park, taught me so much about what I don't need. The first time I met Thai in 1999, we did a walking meditation, and I was one of those special people, and I'll say special with love and humor. I was one of those special people who was doing walking meditation by themselves after everybody was ready for the next thing. I felt like I'd entered another realm. Because for the first time, and I think it's in my parents because both of them went through war. Both of them lost beloved people in the wars. So they've been running, right? And I have that energy because we inherit our parents' energy, their DNA, their nurturance, their rhythm. So when I first did that walking meditation with Thai, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm perceiving reality at the same time as I'm walking through it. And I was like, it's amazing. Like, life is amazing. And so when I would go back to Thai like 40, 50 times when I've seen him talk, I've always tried to return to that. Like, Jay, just watch the way he's erasing the board. Just watch the way he's letting them put the microphone on his lapel. Watch the way he's seeing, oh, this cup is real before I drink from it. And that for me was just like, okay, I don't have to worry about the moment after this one. I can just be in this one. And he looks fine. And I really needed someone. I needed a parental figure who was fine and who was present. And he was fine. Like, I mean, I followed him around the world and I've seen him in so many different moments, and I just was waiting for that moment when he wouldn't be fine. And of course, like, I remember when someone in the Sangha committed suicide in Plum Village, and I heard that Thai didn't say anything, that he just, with his attendants, just went out in the darkness and started walking. And I was like, yes! Like, I don't know why that meant so much to me, but it means so much to me. I was asked to talk about being a person of color and a minority, I've gone through some bullying in my life, and I'm being harassed presently. And I'm trying to figure out, I mean, being raised Asian, you do also have this sense, and Asian American, I was born here, you have this sense of like, you need good luck, you need to be, something about you or your path has to be auspicious. And I've always kept that in the back of my mind. No matter how much American I am, I've always just thought about that, and I wanted to bring that up. So being bullied and being harassed, it's so interesting. I'm a strong person, but there's also a part of me that's just kind of passive and lets the bullying happen. And I've just been so curious about it. I'm like, is this just my karma? Because part of me does want to just like rise up and like take revenge in these moments. But I'm remembering what Larry Ward, one of our amazing teachers, has spoken about. He's like, when something horrible is happening to you, just be with it. What are the feelings that are arising? And it's like the tyrant in me just wants to rise up and crush these people and just be like, how can you be like this to me? Or how can you be like this to these people? So I've had to sit with a lot of that. So either in this lifetime or the time before, maybe I bullied someone else. But I do I'm still trying to explore why I would allow this to happen. I don't really have an answer except for that this morning I was like, maybe we're a proxy for someone else's stuff. Maybe we're all a proxy for each other's projections and needs to work through stuff. And that's what I am when these people are doing this to me. It's not me. It's who I represent, or maybe it's the way I was raised in my culture to be excellent, to be quiet, to be attractive, to be useful. Those are things that for me, it's the Asian American female Bible. But I've always wrestled in my seat by being defined. And I feel that way. I feel like I am definitely neurodivergent. I've always been sensitive to sound, more sensitive to light, just sensitive to like the vibrations in the ground. And also I've never felt like I fit in the gender position of girl, woman, female. A lot of it has to do with my mother and my father and their dynamic. So yeah, I've had a huge basket of suffering, but I feel like I'm getting closer to some truths. So hopefully that means that it's a good time. Like maybe the suffering gets really intense right before you are ready to let it go. It's really fascinating to watch storms happen and just watch them happen and then watch them digress, like kind of fall apart. And you're sort of like, I'm not attached to that anymore. I'm not saying I do this all the time, by any means. But I feel in this practice I learned to a great degree how to just be here where you are right now. And that is your resource, that's your source. So thank you.
Thank you, Jay, for your sharing. And thank you for journeying with Deer Park for all these years. I know many BIPOC, or back then it was people of color, have not just didn't stay as long as you. I think you came for a people of color retreat. Was it? Yeah. Early 204 when I was here. Recorded, yeah. No, it's just I noticed, that's one thing we need support with is, how you call it, riding all the way to the ocean, from the BIPOC community, and that's something that, we aspire more to do in all our monasteries. So thank you for being around, sticking around, and we'll continue on that journey together. In many ways, not just in that category. Yeah. So thank you. Our next panelist is Alex Klein. Alex Klein recently was at Deer Park, brought his whole band to help us with the music festival. It was the first time we had a concert at a monastery. It was quite crazy. I'm so glad nothing happened. Besides a bunch of nuns dancing. The fence watching them. Sister D was the head of it. They brought Sister D up to say, Sister D, if you dance, then we could dance. But Alex Klein was cool. He brought his jazz, really amazing meditative music there, and it was so beautiful. And as well as Peter, part of that band. And so we had all kinds of mixture, a diverse representation of music and meditation. Early days with his family and his little girl, Sichuan. And I remember the first time they came this summer, and they both came to me because their child is cry a lot at night, and all the other tents can't sleep, and they were like suffering a lot and feeling that guilt, wanting to be there, but then doesn't want. And I remember, both of you kind of like at a really tough spot, and we were lucky we convinced you to stay and say, don't worry, we're all practitioner. She can cry all she wants. And I think that breakthrough to stay on beyond the second day, I think you became more comfortable with your family. I'll never forget that. The transformation for you to stay for the whole 6 days, the change in your face and your child as well. Now she's a young, beautiful woman, and coming up, and just you can feel Deer Park in her, in the way she holds herself, and very kind, soft, but also very solid. She came up a few times, and I can feel that definitely as a child of Deer Park. So I wanted to ask you, you also come from a Christian background, or like not just Buddhist, but I wonder if you can share anything about your family and how you joined the Sangha, and that, or actually how you actually raise your child up. Yeah, thank you.
Thai, dear respected community. It sounds like you can hear me. That's good. My voice doesn't project very well, and I think this mic has some issues. Yeah, thank you. An interesting question. My own family, during my growing up, did not have any kind of standard religious context in which to practice or learn anything. Although both my parents came from the Christian tradition, different expressions of it. The religion in my family, I would have to say, was secular humanism. And I discovered that secular humanism has its own brand of guilt that can get transmitted. Both my parents were school teachers. Both of them taught in the LA Unified School District for over 30 years each. And they both taught junior high school, which now is known as middle school, which I think, looking back on it, indicates some either incredibly courageous and steady characteristics, or it means they were both completely out of their minds. Because we didn't have a religious or a spiritual context in my family in terms of any kind of practice or any kind of training, and because I also inherited a lot of what you might call existential angst, I had a lot of questions and a lot of insecurity and a lot of fear growing up. There was just nothing to put all of those questions and all of that concern and fear into any kind of container to help heal or even begin to process it. And so by the time I hit my teen years and my hormones kicked in, I underwent kind of a major personality change, and I became very depressed, very antisocial, very confused. And this was also fueled by fears about world events at the time. So this included the potential for a nuclear holocaust with the Soviet Union, ecological degradation, pollution, and I also had to register for the draft to possibly go fight in Vietnam. I was just young enough so that did not happen, but I have to say that thanks to my suffering and thanks to those difficult questions, and also thanks to the music that I found myself listening to and beginning to play at the time, which was a type of jazz music that was oftentimes very spiritually inspired, I started to undergo another transformation of sorts, even though it was a very slow and gradual one. Just recently, these things as you go along, they're become like a series of awakenings. And one of my more recent awakenings was when looking at suffering, realizing that if suffering and happiness are indeed two sides of the same coin, then the first noble truth can also be happiness. And that suffering doesn't need to be seen as something to somehow conquer or diffuse. It's, somebody said that there are no obstacles on the path. The obstacles are the path. And I don't even know if I can look at it that way. It's kind of if I'm already thinking, I think I'm already kind of in the hole on that one. But anyway, I will, to go into the daughter scenario, my wife Karen, who I feel like in all objectivity is probably one of the greatest moms in the world, came from a very heavy evangelical Protestant Christian background. And there was also a lot of trauma in that family, as well as a lot of mental illness. So I think it's important to just recognize that she and I decided that if we were going to become parents, that we really wanted to adopt. This was something we really felt most comfortable with. And even though I was reticent for a long time, that's a whole other story we don't have time for. So I became a parent late in life, relatively speaking. But we adopted our daughter, Xinwan, from China, which was informed by a lot of personal decision-making, and it was not an easy decision. So I say this because Xinwan, I don't want to tell her story, but I'll just say in the general terms, she had a lot of very early life, like kind of amygdala level something that happened to her that was difficult to deal with, but we were the lucky ones because we got to deal with it. And she was lucky because I have to say that free of any notions of like being a rescuer or a savior or something, when none of which was anything we ever felt or bought into, I find it doubtful that she would have any kind of life or even maybe be alive if she had stayed in China. So one of the things that this experience showed me, being Xinwan's parent, her father, was myself. It's sort of like someone just holding a mirror up to you all the time, including in the middle of the night when you wish you were sleeping. And I learned so many things about myself, learned about so many feelings and characteristics and tendencies and certainly triggers that I never knew I had and was horrified to discover that I did. And thankfully and somewhat coincidentally, I became a committed practitioner in this tradition right around that time. So we first came to Deer Park Monastery when Xinwan was 2 years old for a retreat with Thai, and it was very difficult, especially if you were like me and you have all these ideas in your head about what it's supposed to be like. It was very not like most of those things. But at the same time, we did resolve to keep coming, and we came steadily for, basically the last 18 years. And consequently, our daughter has grown up. She's now 20, as a Deer Parker. So I wanted to just say that without the practice and without the Sangha, I don't know how I would have gotten through my parenting experience. And I'm really grateful for the talk that we've heard a lot of today, where we're talking about different bodies, because one of the things that I've learned through this practice and through being Shinran's father is that I have a body, and she has a body, and my wife Karen has a body, but the delineation between those bodies is pretty fuzzy after a while. So the Sangha body, the Dharma body, I feel blessed to be able to be, I feel still being taught by the Dharma body of people who aren't even physically with us anymore. And my body, in caring for Shinran, I was caring for myself. In caring for Karen, I was caring for Shinran. It just becomes a big circle after a while. And as Sister Dee knows very well, caring for myself was the biggest challenge. Because I think it didn't even really sink in until more recent years that I realized, if I had been better at taking care of myself, I think I probably could have handled all this a lot better, and everyone would have benefited from that. But, live and learn. Better late than never, I guess. I have too many thoughts competing for attention right now, so I will just say that that silence that I just inadvertently supplied for everyone is really, I think, deeply important. We were talking about the music a little while ago, and one of the important things about music is that there's silence between the sound. And I appreciate the space, the silence. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you, everyone, for just curious if there's any one question out there for any of these things that we're exploring. Hope you continue to practice and to continue in your family. And please, it's important to, I think more and more now, there's a teaching that says there's only the present moment. Don't think about the past, it's no longer there, and then there's no longer, the future's not come. I think more and more now we are hearing that actually in the present moment, if you take care of it well, also your past is there with you, and how to take care of it, how to cherish it, how to honor it, and so on. The things that we've been transmitted sometimes is hidden. And with the practice, we begin to acknowledge that more, and sometimes it comes out just us crying and not knowing why we cry. And I don't know, maybe a twitch, our body comes out, not knowing why, and it's okay. And that is, I think, a part of the transmissions that sometimes we get through our ancestor, the generation that has been passed down, especially for those who have escaped war or who have had some traumatic experience in their childhood, as I'm experiencing myself coming from Vietnam. So in the present moment, when it says that there's only the present moment, it means with the present moment, you can handle all that. You understand? It's not like, oh, there's no past, I should not ignore it. No, you should study, learn, and allow it to flow through you again. And that's also our ancestor. And then that's what I learned from our teacher. Like the more we honor our ancestor in that positive and deliberate way, the difficulty. And then you are not afraid of it when it comes to you. And when it's uncontrollable, crying, uncontrollable, like convulsion. As a monk, I have experienced that, laying there and actually really crying, and my body is shaking. And I realize it's from my escape when I was 7 years old. And my parents didn't tell me that we were leaving our country for good. So for us to not be afraid of that and allow that. So suffering here is not anything bad or like it shouldn't happen or like, oh, why did that happen to me? That kind of language. No, it's actually when we can honor that whatever that past that we have and be with it and learn to be with it. And that's through the practice and having community as well. To hear Jane, to hear all of you up here sharing also your challenges and difficulty, that is like looking at suffering and not being afraid of it, because we have the Sangha, we have a practice. So that's how we assure a good future for the next generation, so that we don't blindly ignore the things that happen to us, and then it undermines and it becomes these hidden motivations that we're not even aware of, hidden judgment and prejudices and habits that we have that undermines all of our aspiration. So I think that's the intention of why we want, real practitioners to really honor the difficulties that they've gone through. And we want to thank all our panelists up here for sharing and being exposing yourself out there to the whole Sangha. Let's all give a flower to and we hope to do this annually, and so be out there when I give you a call, okay? So come up here and show your compost and flowers. So we can end here and sing a happiness song, and please, the Sangha has put together with a lot of love and a lot of effort. I mean, more than the monastic did with our own stage, so please visit every little corner of this Sangha fair, okay? And really cherish all your care into it. And we'll end here to sing a happiness song, okay? Happiness is here now. I have dropped my worry. Nowhere to go, nothing to do, no longer in a hurry. Happiness is here and now. I have dropped my worry. Somewhere to go, something to do, but I don't need to hurry. Once again, thank you, dear Sangha, dear family, for coming to support this wonderful day in Orange County in the city. Please please come and visit us in the mountain. And our intention is to do this at least once a year. The next one could be someplace even more urban, like more grungy, This is like so idyllic, God. So please continue to enjoy the practice at your home, and we hope to see you at Deer Park. Thank you. And those of you who want to help the monks and nuns, like, what do you call this? Collapse, wrap up, break down. And we need to bring a lot of stuff back to the truck over there. So please look for a monk or nun, and they'll tell you what to do. That direction. Thank you.